Hello and welcome to ShameOver. So glad to have you here. This is the place where you can learn how to drink less, how to moderate, and really have a mindful, healthy relationship with alcohol without having to deal with the all or nothing black and white mentality that is so very triggering to most of us. So if that's you, so glad you're here. You are in the perfect place. Today I'm going to talk about my high school reunion that just came up this past weekend. And I will definitely start off by saying I am so glad I went. It was a wonderful time. But what I really wanted to focus on is the lead up to it and how I not only survived, but thrived throughout the event. So, with media, with, all the shows, and I mean, there's movies about it, but there's so much buildup to the high school reunion, whether it's your 10-year, 20-year, 30, 50, whatever. But I've realized there's so much around it with we have so much to prove. How's everyone gonna look? What are they doing? It is just so fascinating, all the shit that comes out in ourselves and around everyone else too when it comes to this. I mean, I cannot tell you how many people, when they would ask, what are you doing this weekend? I'm like, oh, I have my high school reunion. Oh yeah, you're good. You're gonna go knock them dead. And all these things build you up, which I appreciate, and I know I've said the same thing to other people, but it was just so fascinating. This is an opportunity for us to connect with others, and we're still so worried about ourselves, how we're showing up, what we've accomplished, how people are gonna think of us, what they're gonna say about us. Are they gonna judge us? And what's the one thing that all comes down to? What are people thinking about me, right? My mom had told me a lot when I was younger, and it took me a little bit to understand what she meant, but it was one of the greatest lessons she ever learned. So please do not judge my mom. She's a phenomenal mom. But she would look at me and say, Erica, you're not that important. I would walk past someone and, they would look at me and give me a dirty look. And, oh my God, she must be such a bitch. I was like, Erica, you're not that important. She probably was not even thinking about you. She was probably looking straight through you in a sense. So the reason why I bring that up is the lead up, the past couple weeks leading up to this. For me, it was my 20-year reunion. There was so much kind of excitement, but some anxiety with it. I didn't know what I was going to wear. I didn't know, I bought tanning stuff that ended up coming too late, and I didn't want to look like an Oompa Loompa, so I ended up not using it. I decided what I was going to wear literally about 20 minutes before because I just could not find anything. Bought a bunch, sent it all back, went to a couple different stores to try things on, hated everything. So, all this, where if I'm just going out for a normal night, all of this thought is not coming into it. So it really got me thinking, because here I'm probably the most at peace with myself that I've ever been in my life. I'm very content. I'm happy with myself. I'm happy in my marriage. I'm happy in my relationships. Everything's good right now. And I'm not saying that to brag or anything along those lines, but here I am in a very, very good place, the best place I've possibly ever been in my life, yet all of these insecurities are rushing back. So that really started making me dig into this whole experience and what was going on. And what I realized was who we went to high school with. And, for a lot of us, depending on where you are, who I went to high school with, a lot of those people I knew from middle school on, but even more, obviously, from elementary school on. So these are people who I have completely, from, we'll say, 6 years old on, grown up with, who I haven't seen in half of that time period, half of my life. And it just made me realize, I was trying to figure out who I was during that time period. But in reality, we're kind of doing that, but we're learning who we are by trying to be other people, trying to be liked by others, trying to be popular, or, whatever that is. Nobody wants to be disliked. That's human nature, right? That's how fitting in is a big part of survival. So that is very inherent in us. But when we're in high school, we are super insecure because, we're going through puberty, we're getting a body, all these different hormones are changing in our bodies and in our minds, and our brains are developing, and all these things are going on. And we're trying to figure out who we are by being around all these other people who are as insecure as we are, and we're all trying to figure it out together by learning how to be ourselves, when really we're just trying to like be like everyone else, or at least be liked, right? So it was just so unbelievably fascinating to me that here I am, where I feel like I'm in a really good, healthy place just in my life, and all of these insecurities are starting to come back. And it made me realize that when we go back, when we're around people that we were a different person with, we were insecure, it is very hard for us not to go back to that same place. Even if we can get ourselves out of it, it's natural, it's habitual to go back there. And so much with drinking, right? Every week we will have this conversation where, it shouldn't be this hard. Like, I don't want to be thinking about this all the time. I don't want to be, and I get that. And I will say, I'll probably say this all the time, so just get used to it. But whatever you practice, you get good at. So we've been practicing, in my case, drinking for 20 plus years, right? So with that, of course, when certain thoughts and feelings come up, that when I've had them in the past, I typically had turned to alcohol, that's going to come to mind. Same with being in this situation. Here I knew I was going to be seeing all these people that most I hadn't seen in 20 years, but that I was like trying to figure out who I was with them and among them. And I was an insecure person then. We all were. And so of course those insecurities are going to be coming back. It's natural. What I love so much is it felt like everyone there was really in a good place. Like, I had amazing conversations, and everyone just seemed, at least for the most part, everyone who I had talked to seemed in a good place, seemed happy, seemed like they had found themselves in a sense. And that is, I feel like, the wish for everyone. I know, just for myself, as a coach, as a parent, as a friend, no greater wish do I have for anyone than to find themselves. Because when you find yourself, everything else falls into place. When you love and accept yourself, everything falls into place. It doesn't mean it doesn't take time, it doesn't take hard work. Of course it takes all that, but it all starts with number one. And that is why one of my mantras is Michael Jackson's, I almost said Michael Jordan, funny, Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror, because it all does start with us. So, fast forward to, here's the high school reunion. Normally, I would have absolutely pre-gamed before I went, and then, had probably a shot as soon as we got there just to calm the nerves, and didn't do any of that. We got there, didn't see anyone immediately, so I'm like, okay, let's get a drink, that's totally fine. Went to the bar. As soon as we got our first drink, ran into some people, and then, everything started opening up, and it does make it a little easier, in the social media age where, there's people who I haven't seen 15, 20 years that I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, I just saw that, your stepmom just died, or, so that makes things easier in the sense that it doesn't feel like, oh my God, I have not seen you in 20 years, what's up? But, it can also kind of make it awkward, because I don't want them to think I'm like stalking them, or, all this. But anyway, so I start with one drink, and it was a sipper, and it was definitely, it wasn't a cocktail bar, I'll put it that way, so it wasn't this like, great drink that you're wanting to sip. It was just a sipper. And so that lasted me probably close to an hour. And then drank 2 cups of water after that, like big cups. And then after that, I decided they had an actual list of booze-free options, which if you've not tried any, please do. They are my saving grace, a huge reason why I was able to decrease my drinking by over 90%. But on the list they had Groovy IPA, which I absolutely love. So I got one of those, sipped on that for probably another 30-45 minutes, then had more water. Then we were getting ready to go, and all of a sudden this huge storm breaks out. So we're trapped there for a little bit. My husband and I had scooted there because it was close enough. It was only a mile from where we live, so it made it super easy just to jump on our 50cc vroom vroom scooter and head down there. The storm put a damper in things as far as like when we were planning to leave, but it was great. Like, we stayed, we had obviously more great conversation. We danced a little, which is a big deal for me. I'm not a dancer, but you know, when in Rome. My husband loves to dance, so I know that that was a big highlight for him. But a fascinating thing, so I had given myself 3 drinks was my goal, like 3 or less. So originally I was at 2. Then I decided, okay, like we'll have another one just because we're here a little bit later. And it was just a huge, like, wow, just great aha moment again, because there I was getting ready to order. Nothing sounded good. Literally nothing sounded good. And then I'm just like, well, I guess I could let's just do a tequila soda. And I should have said my second drink throughout the night. I had 3 over, I think we were there about 5-6 hours. No. Yeah, 5 or 6 hours. So, 3 over that time period, great, I'm happy with it. But what was crazy is that third drink was forced. There was nothing on the menu that I was like, oh, that sounds really good, like I'll have that. So I was checking in with my body in the sense that, like, does that sound good, does it not? But I still forced that third drink, which I did not need to. And then, since drinks aren't like $2, I kept reminding myself, like, oh, well, this is really expensive, don't let it go to waste. So it's just so amusing that even as I'm doing this, as I'm helping people to decrease their drinking too, how easily things can creep back in if we're not aware, if we don't make like a hard set plan. And there's nothing wrong. I have no problem with 3 drinks over 5 or 6 hours. Just so you know, typically from at least the science that I've seen, our livers can process up to 1 alcoholic beverage every hour. So if you're consuming more than that, bad news bears. But so having, of course, 3 over a longer period than that 3 hours, I was, again, very happy with. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is, again, because I had allotted myself 3 or less, I was like, oh, well, I can have a third if I want. And then I decided, yes, I did want to. But I didn't really want it, but I still ordered it. And then the one good thing is, as I'm going through this, when I was about half done, I'm just like, yeah, I don't think I want anymore. So I had like another sip or 2 and then just left the rest. Again, another thing I would have never thought that I would have done is leave a man standing, right? That's just not what you do. Now, yes, it is what you do. If you don't like it, don't drink it. If you're not feeling something, don't be forced to order it. Just ask for a soda water and say, I'll come back in a few when I've decided what I want. Listen to yourself, check in with yourself, and then take a break, take a moment if you need, because that's really what I needed, was for myself just to take a moment and be like, do I actually really want this? Like, I know I'm thinking that I do, I know I'm saying that I do, but nothing sounds good. So that was a great lesson for me to be like, okay, if nothing sounds good, take a break. If you don't want to order something, that's okay. So that is what I have for you guys today. Definitely a shorter one, but if you guys have something coming up that is causing a lot of anxiety, a lot of the unknown, go back and try to figure out why. It's probably because there's some insecurities around that. There's some trauma around it. There's some whatever around it that you haven't dealt with, that you need to either deal with or let go and move on. But most of all, I just cannot believe how awesome it was to see so many people, to catch up with some amazing people and just realize, like, we definitely are lucky. It's really cool to be able to do this, to connect with people that we grew up with, and whether we were close or not, it doesn't matter. Life is all about community and connection and being there for each other. And even if it is just one moment in time, it's a moment that might make a difference for someone else. So go back, figure out your insecurities or the trauma or what's going around to provide this anxiety, because again, with it, you're living in the past or the future, which I know I definitely was leading up to it. But be in the moment, check in with yourself, come up with a plan the best that you can. I know just for where I am, I didn't feel the need to check the website, know exactly what I was going to do. And again, I said up to 3, I stuck with that, and I'm happy with that. But realize that even as you're going through this, you're still going to be learning, you're still going to be growing and evolving, and that is actually a beautiful thing. So with that, I will say cheers till next time. And if you like this, please share, please like, please subscribe. That is the only way that I can grow and help more people. But more than anything, just realize that your relationship with alcohol can be improved, and you can find a healthy relationship with alcohol when you are focused on moderation and mindfulness, and most of all, checking in and being good to number 1. So I'll leave you with that. Love to all. Have a great one, and we'll see you next time.